All right, we are. I think it's showtime. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Doing good.
Good, good. We are excited for one finish finally this chapter. I think all of us are ready to move on. But there are a few more, I think, gems that we can take from this chapter and try to make sense how all of these line up on this, well, on Isaiah prophecy, on the end time, and maybe on this structure from these chapters. Before that, um, any is there anything you want to say, guys? Hello and hello, everyone. Yes, please say hi in the chat. We will try to go to every comment today, and we don't have the answers, but we do our best to make up something. So maybe let's plug a few things we're working on. But first of all, Cameron launched a new channel last week, I believe.
Yeah.
You want to do a plug for it?
Yeah, just last week. So it's called The Literal Gathering, which of course has lots of ties to what we study in Isaiah here. And it's just exploring that component of the gospel that surprisingly gets less attention than I would expect. I did a search on YouTube just to see what other people were talking about the literal gathering. And yeah, that third video down was the only one I could find right there. Yeah, those guys, the two brothers. That was the only one I could find that had the title or the word literal gathering in the title. So to my surprise, I thought, oh, is there, maybe there's one more. Yeah, that was like a minute long or something like that. And I listened to both of them and I thought, well, yeah, you know, if this is all that's out there, then I think there's definitely what's the word? There's like a place and opportunity for, you know, this kind of conversation to be had. I've kind of long felt that like there's no point in writing a book that's already been written, so to speak, or, you know, to saying some things that other people have already said or could say better. So hopefully you'll get a lot of unique content with the channel that so you won't find elsewhere.
That's great. That's great. And well, yeah, let's stay tuned to everything. I watch your first video. I need to watch the second one, but I've been traveling. Anyway, so yes, we believe in the literal gathering of Israel. I think today we covered some of that at the very end of Isaiah 14. But I believe this has been something that, if you look at as a trajectory, I don't know if members of the church understand what the literal what is the literal aspect of this gathering. And I remember that there was this massive desire to come to America around the 80s. That's when President Kimball said, remember that the place of gathering for the saints, and Mexico was Mexico, and Chile was Chile, and all of these places. And that was an emphasis for people don't come to America. Of course, I didn't obey that, but but back then I think was a big push on maybe try to correct some type of physical aspect of the gathering, but then became more. If you ask people today, you hear in Sunday school that they say, "Oh, you are gathered wherever you are." You know that is the notion of because of it of a physical gathering has been, I will say, lost and all misunderstood. And then we have more President Nelson, I think, a big emphasis to gather Israel and the other side of the veil, where now we see, oh, the gathering is happening on temples and so forth, but we don't realize that there is way more than that. And I think you're going to bring so much clarity and based on principles, I believe, that everywhere in the gospel, but I don't know if you want to chime in on that at all, but that was my thought when I hear your channel. I thought, oh, that's going to be an opportunity for a lot of clarity.
Yeah, that's certainly what it's all about. the point of the gospel, to kind of spoil that second video there, is the gathering of Israel. Ultimately, when we talk about the fullness of the gospel, the fullness of the good tidings, of the good news, what does that entail? Well, it's Isaiah's whole message here, right? It's of Israel's restoration, the remaking of the kingdom, of Christ ruling over it as king, and of Israel being set at the head of the nations as a result, and all the world kind of coming into this millennial state. That's the fullness of the gospel, and it's more than it's bigger than any one individual, I guess, is what's really important. And our kind of modern, especially American, overly Protestant world, everything's become very individualized. You know, we're individual participants in the gospel, and when we go to church, everything is about our individual day-to-day lives. So yeah, the idea here is we lose something when we lose sight of the big picture that we're participating in, which is the remaking of a literal kingdom. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. And let's see a few more things before jumping. And maybe I don't know if I should show this. I sent it to you guys, but because I didn't hear anything back, I'll get someone to talk about it. Eventually, so we have our literal translation that we're working since last year, and while literal translation, I think most translations have a lot of layers of interpretation, and they're very valid because most of the translators, they have something very unique to their background when it comes to Hebrew, to people who actually maybe they lived in Jerusalem and understand some of the idioms, or I don't know, somebody who's more analytical will go one direction. So it's a lot of value to listen to, read translations and compare. But eventually, I always like to go to try to find the source, right, and then build from there and get my own personal insight, and then compare with other people's insights, rather than just right away use one step remove information to be the framework that I start reading all the scriptures. So and it happens to us that sometimes we have we take interpretation as framework, and then it's very hard to get rid of that when we're trying to make sense things that don't fit in that framework. So it's a good exercise for us to, I don't know, look at the Hebrew, and the purpose of this translation is going to be to just give you a face value, as best possible consistency across the Hebrew words. And then we will have, similar to Search Diligently, although this will be more basic, just Isaiah will have a robust search engine, but then we will have like analysis of the word choices. So then you guys can read what it goes into the Hebrew behind, but then compare within Isaiah all of the other different verses that have the same words, and have fun with it. So that's coming soon. And I will say maybe after this class we'll have a break to get a lot of things done. And the other one, I know Rachel and Rochelle, who's helping us to put together a couple of courses that are going to help us to have a more, how do you explain, Rachel, the type of video you guys are making for our Search Diligently tool? Conversational aspect to it?
The tool, basically you listen to Ray and I chit chat and just kind of go over how to use it in a simplified way, but maybe that's less formal. Some people, we're just trying to cover all the bases of what people might want to listen to. And
got it. And more way simplified if I'm the one explaining how to use it, right? Because I'll go on the technical aspect that nobody cares. So anyway, so we are in Isaiah chapter 14. And so this is going to be our last. final section. Any opening remarks, guys, before jump in?
My only feeling, I told you guys, I either need to spend like another month in 14, or I'm just ready to like throw out the ideas that I have today and then move on. But I'm not committed to anything. I'm in that in between. It's like I could see this, I could see this, it could be this, it could be this, and I have no answers, but I have a lot of ideas. So
that's
where I'm at.
Well, and all of them can be, you know.
Yeah, right.
That is one or the other, or
no, I can't land on anything, but I see a lot of possibilities. That's super interesting. So take that with a grain of salt, everybody.
Maybe something will emerge tonight.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping.
And to show you something that maybe stood out to me, going back to the song, the chant against the king of Babylon, you start seeing these parallel idea of ascension and descension, but ascension when it comes to pride, that the king of Babylon is trying to lift up himself, right? And will be more like the Most High. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will sit up upon the mount of the assembly in the side of the north. Now, this Hebrew word is I think it's very important, because the north it's going to appear in this next block. And then I think I realized that maybe now we are seeing this type of axiom between the spiritual and then the temporal, or the archetype and the timeline, right? Things apply to the past, things apply to the future, things apply spiritual, things apply temporally. And I have a kind of map that I would like to share later, but you see that the north here becomes some type of, and I'll show you in the next slide, I don't know, what is the word I'm trying to say, the axiom between what we're trying to see. Because anyway, so he will exalt, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will ascend into heaven, but then he is brought down to Sheol, the size of the pit. You have the same idea of the size of the north, same Hebrew word. And then thy pomp is brought down to Sheol, and then thou art cast out of thy grave like a winnowed branch. We read that. And then thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, which is this is the concept of having no honor, and God, all he has, right, is his honor. That's what Lucifer wanted in Moses chapter 4, right? Give me thy, what is the word in English? Give me thy, what is it, guys? Moses 4.
The honor?
Not honor. Yeah, it's honor, right?
Oh, I thought you said honor.
Okay, got it. I thought I said honor, but I'm translated from Spanish to English.
Yeah.
And then
what is honor? Because I came across the verse too that connected with this, and the idea of, and had honor, and I was like, I got to look up this word. I don't know what it actually means in Hebrew, or the honor, what that represents, but we can do that another time.
Yeah, my own power.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
And Spanish translates as actually his honor, literally translation of that. But anyway, but now we see the parallelism that he being without a burial was this shameful that we talked about that last week. But if you look at the here it becomes a little complex, because you see that if you pair all of these the ascension and descension elements of the song, you have that he's ascend to heaven, brought down to Sheol. That's the pair above the stars, and sitting the throne. But now his bed is going to be full with maggots. The side of the north, side of the pit. That's kind of the center here. Heights of the clouds, cast down to the grave, like the Most High, and then not join with them in burial. So you have And I did a little research on this, and that there is one type of complex chiasm that in Hebrew, which is the idea of a scaffold. How you pronounce that? Scaffold?
Scaffold?
Yeah, where you have, and this can be dynamic. You have on one side one parallel on the other one, but then they can cross each other, and that's when it becomes very, for your brain, hard to put linear, because Isaiah's playing with this. It's showing you right now there is a structure between antithetical parallelism between Zion and Isaiah 11 and 12, and Babylon, Isaiah 13, 14. That's one. But then on 14 itself, you see the song has its own literary structure. You see the beginning of chapter 14, those who are the sojourners of Israel, who they join Israel. They juxtapose those later with the Philistines, and so it becomes all of these interconnecting literary structures that sometimes it's very hard to grasp unless you cannot do the job to put a visual, but fun stuff. And then we're gonna read these three oracles right now that comes against Babylon, and Isaiah 14, 22, 24, and then Assyria, which is 14, 23, 27, and then Philistia, which is 28 to 31. And the interesting thing here is that chronologically, all of these oracles were fulfilled, and so the closest one to them was Philistia, but then it's the third one in the chronological order, and then Assyria, and then Babylon is way far away from Isaiah. So that is his chronological descent. So I don't know what can we make from it. I think Isaiah's doing this on purpose, because he is maybe reversing the order for us to understand this goes beyond maybe history. And then there is geographically also that very interesting, because Philistia is the closest to Zion, to Jerusalem back then, and then Assyria, and then Babylon. So you have the chronological aspect of the oracles. They are in reverse order. And then the same, you see that there is proximity, right? The oracles against them that come more far away from Philistia to Babylon. Anyway, I think that's a fun thing he's trying to put together here. I don't know if you guys have any insights on this, but
No, I'm good right now.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything other than it's just like it seems like it's setting up a cosmic image, right? Like concentric rings that sort of go out as you go further and further out, out of outer darkness, as it were, further and further to periphery. And
I did this, and I don't know when to share this, to be honest, but maybe now is the time. So I did this little 3D
like that
animation. You can fidget with it, so it's kind of fun. So you have two axioms here, and maybe that's something that we are reading right now. And why do I mention the north becomes a high place, but then the north later becomes a geographical location? So you have on one sense the sun, which represents the spiritual axiom, if you wish, right? You have Jerusalem, which is Zion, a type of Zion, the axis mundi. The prophecy ends, the oracle ends with Zion in verse 31. And then you have Sheol and the underworld. But then Isaiah changed that to now physical locations. And let me make sure the north is up here. And for the physical locations, I actually entered the exact coordinates of like where these places were before. Proximity to Jerusalem, if Jerusalem is the center. So now you see here is Philistia, which we're gonna talk about today, on the coast, west to Jerusalem. But then you see Assyria comes, it's a little northeast. but they come from the north because that's the only way to come to Jerusalem. You need to come for the north. And then Babylon is technically a little more farther away east. So wondering now we're seeing some type of categories, right, of these people who are not entering into Zion, but now they're going to start living, right, that center place as spiritual conditions that are going to eventually experience this vertical descension. So
I wonder if sorry, this is gonna I'm gonna throw this out here, but I was wondering how the beasts of Negev connected to this, because Negev is the south, and that's the only other time we mentioned, like, there's 2 other times we mentioned the viper, but I'll wait till we get there. There's maybe something interesting with that, having it be the opposite of north, you know?
Yes. Yeah. But coordinates are they're definitely a type.
Yeah.
And like, this is the farther you go from the center place, from Zion, which is going to be the place heaven and earth meets, then it's going to be more darkness, more recreation. And yeah, I think will be a fun thing to start seeing from all of these different nations who they are, because then you need to superimpose this into a end time scenario category type. And today we're going to analyze who Babylon, Assyria, and Philistia are, but then the Moabites and everybody else also are a type of something. But it's Zion against the world, technically. So if you're not in Zion, then you're going to be part of these different places that are going to be exposed to the tribulation. Well, all of us will, but the abomination of desolation, those who are not in the holy place, are going to be are going to suffer the consequences. So all right,
that's cool.
Cameron, you want to start reading? And
yeah,
from there?
I almost feel like should we go back one verse? Let's see, I can pull it up here just for context, because I know we're coming in the middle of
I know there was not a good stopping place. I remember.
Yeah, tricky.
Well, I have it here, 14.
Yeah,
that's 21.
We can do 21. Yeah, so to start to end with, kind of 1920, we're talking about the king of Assyria, or the king of Babylon, rather, being compared to Lucifer, right? Cast into the pit. You won't be joined with your posterity and burial. I'm trying to read back.
You go back?
No, it's all right. Your land's destroyed, your people you slew. Never shall the seed of evildoers be named. And then 21, prepare for his sons a slaughter for the iniquity of their fathers. So this is the posterity of the king of Babylon. Lest they arise and possess the earth and fill the face of the world with cities. And then we get into 22 here. And I will rise against them, declares Yahweh of hosts, and I will cut off from Babylon name and remnant, and offspring and posterity, declares Yahweh. And I will make her a possession of the hedgehog and pools of water, and I will sweep her with the broom of destruction, declares Yahweh of hosts.
Have you guys ever held the little hedgehog? They're so cute. We almost got one time. One of my daughters really wanted one, and they're just like, oh, they're cute.
So what's the symbolism with the hedgehog?
I know the hedgehog's weird. So hedgehog's a weird translation. I actually think we kind of don't exactly know what maybe the correct best word is. Like that.
That's a great picture.
I know. I'm not a huge AI fan, but sometimes they, you can come up with some great pictures, and I can appreciate that. So the hedgehog, I have that in yellow there. They think maybe it's like a species of a bird, which they call the bittern, or they think it could be a porcupine or a hedgehog. or something that's like maybe a shrinking animal, because the root word means like to roll together, or to like, you like this, Cameron, or to gather together, you know, like to kind of like to roll up, right? And so, yeah, I think it's funny that the hedgehog is the word that's used there. So maybe we don't exactly fully understand or know what that word is, but definitely it falls into the category of some of those, you know, the weird things that occupy the desert land that we talked about earlier, and I'll talk about again today. But anyways, real quick, I'll just go over like I'm just define each of these words, what the Hebrew means. I think that'll kind of help us understand what this was. Kind of a weird verse, and then I kind of dug into it and potentially found some interesting things. So the possession is talking about basically like to occupy a land or to drive somebody out of a land, like a previous tenant, or to possess it in their place, to seize, to rob, to ruin, cast out, consume, destroy, dispossess, right? And it's interesting because we open with this chapter with the sojourners. And in essence, they're like a people that don't have a land or a place, right? And so it kind of ties into this idea here of to drive out people. Go ahead.
No. I said like they there is also like they have rolling forth.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, the root of sojourn, I think it has to roll, and to roll in the dust too, which is really interesting. So there was a huge dust connection in this chapter that I found as well. And then the pools of water I thought was interesting, right? So that can mean like, you know, collection of water, like a marsh, or like a swamp, a pond, a pool, like standing water. I like the other definition was troubled pool, or troubled or muddy pools or marshes. So I think we have troubled waters in the KJV of Old Testament a couple of times translated. So interesting. And then sweep is just basic sweeping away, but the broom represents like the removing of the dirt or dust. And that same dust is the same idea of like the mud, the mire, the clay, which can represent like calamity, right? So then the dirt represents maybe like a category or a decreation, or, you know, some kind of lower chaos, you know, thinking of like the serpent who eats, you know, goes on its belly and eats the dust. So those were just kind of some of the big definition words in there. Okay, this is where I got a little bit like kind of far into something, and you guys can tell me what you think with it. So the thing I thought was interesting about sweeping and the idea of this broom of destruction was the idea of the dirt, and like a broom specifically sweeps out dust and dirt. And so I was thinking about in Matthew 12, 43 through 45 here, we have the idea of unclean spirits, and that they're basically swept out of the house. I'll just read it here for you. But so when the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. And they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. So the basic idea, which I was kind of kept coming across here again, was basically that things seem to be okay. You think they're okay, but then they end up getting worse than what you thought. And we'll kind of get there as we move on to these verses again. But so the interesting thing was we have the pools of water in the 14:23 in Isaiah. But then when these unclean spirits are cast out, they're walking around through dry places and they can't find rest, you know? And so I thought, oh, there's something interesting with maybe this idea of swampy, stagnant water being a resting place for unclean spirits, right? Maybe something like that. The other idea here that was interesting, you guys want to add to that at all before I move on?
Well, I think it's the picture's gonna come clearer as we go in the
when we get to like
chapter. But yeah, just to say that before, it seems to be, well, in section 38, you have something called the secret chamber, and there is the Lord says, to the early saints that the enemy is combined, and it feels like there is a blend between all of us, like until a certain point in the end time, where then there is this division. So then the people who have been, in this case, maybe a category of people like Babylon, who maybe have been sojourning the I don't know, behaving like they are also part of God's people, eventually they're gonna be receive a worse condition, and this is what we read with the Nephites, right? That the state of them is going to be worse than the first, those who were at some point enlightened by the Spirit, right? So then it feels that what this chapter shows is what happens after Zionists gather at the end. We see that, but then the physical consequences, right, of those who don't enter into Zion, and these are, the whatever is going to be swept now is going to come with, in this case, spirits or entities who will have some type of dominion over that place.
And I say the other type too, I think, is with the idea of someone falling from a higher category where they had knowledge, truth, and light, and then they fall into, they fall to earth in essence. But then because there's somebody who had truth and light and they sin against it, then they are cast down into that pit. It's like, the abyss, and they go even lower, right? So it's like, whatever they had and wherever they were, it ends up being way worse because they sin against the knowledge that they did have. So with that, I was thinking 2 Peter actually parallels Jude really well. And there's some more things I probably won't go about there today, but if you guys ever want to read that, it's really good. And in relation to the idea of like fallen watchers, that ties into that. And Jude talks about it a lot. So if that were a type maybe of someone who had knowledge and light and sinned against it, would be a good one. But so basically he's describing in 2 Peter 2 here, these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. So it's kind of talking about going into this lower place where there's no light. So it talks about them they were clean, this category, and they escaped from them who lived in error. Well, they promised them liberty. They themselves are servants of corruption, for of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. For if after they have escaped the pollutions of this world through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, so it's all right, they've escaped those pollutions, meaning, well, I don't know, we could probably define this as something, but whatever, whatever level of salvation they've received, then they're entangled again, right? And then they become overcome. So again, that idea that the latter end is worse with them than the beginning. It says here that it had been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than after they've known it, and to turn from the holy commandment delivered unto them. And maybe that holy commandment, I wonder if that links to like the idea of those who have the covenant in Daniel, and they return and share the covenant, right? Like, what is that? What's the word you want to talk about, Rodolfo?
Yeah, that's in Daniel 11, that they forsake the covenant.
Yeah, I don't know.
They join technically in this case was, well, that's the Antichrist. Back then. And he gets what is the word? I think it's intel in the translation, from those who forsake the covenant.
Yeah. So they turn.
Historically, that is, I think in Antiochus, Epiphanes, Antiochus Epiphanes, who actually make people kind of reverse their circumcision.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is a type of the covenant. So
yeah. Okay, so then this follows this proverb, these two proverbs, where the dogs return to its vomit, or the sow that washed returns to wallowing in the mire, right? So I don't know how you would define what escaping the pollutions of the world through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is. I don't know if that could be calling election. I don't know how we would define that, but whatever it is, returning back to a place you once were, and the idea of that becoming worse. And so that idea of like the broom of destruction, that falls with this Babylon being destroyed, and this place, it's like a desert wasteland place where all these unclean birds and jackals and weird animals, like we talked about the dancing goat, or like the god of Pan, and those are the things that are represented that live in this place of destruction, or desert-like place.
Well, and this is the fun. I was gonna quote the Matrix.
Oh yeah,
because when John sees in Revelation 17, the Lord takes John to the wilderness, and in the wilderness is when he sees the woman. The woman is is like the scarlet, right? She's dressed with gold and silver and stones, and she has on her forehead, right, Mystery Babylon. And John was just absolutely shocked when he understood what that meant. He doesn't say that explicitly, but he sees woman in the wilderness riding the beast. The fact that she's in the wilderness, though, because she's a counterfeit to Zion. So then the wilderness really is a mirage. That's the word, mirage.
Yeah.
The illusion, and you're in the wilderness, and you think there is this beautiful oasis with shade and water, but it's false. It's a mirage. There is nothing there. It's like the Matrix, right? You have this construct of simulation of reality, but then in the real world it's a wilderness. And that's what actually the thing that Morpheus there tells Neo, right? Welcome to the wilderness of real, because that is reality. It's a wilderness there, which is based on a book. Actually, the book is Simulation and Simulacra, which is a very philosophical book. And then the book, I have it here, it does mention that the only reality is the idea of to deconstruct reality is to go to a wilderness. That's why you always have all the people living, always the wilderness is a place to go to recreate. But then I will say here in this image is that, this is going to be the place that is the condition of Babylon, which is going to be a place for entities to come there to live, to those who don't move on to Zion. A vacuum will be a vacuum for that.
That's funny. Ray and I were just talking about the Oasis. In fact, I think that might be in one of our videos we did. Ray, check that out. Remind me. Remind me to look into that again. Okay, so real quick then, we talked about some of these verses earlier. I just wanted to re-hit them so that we can remember this is what we were talking about. And basically, this is going to connect us into Isaiah 34 a little bit, and we'll get there in the future. But again, the same idea of having like kind of the pink color there, that the burning pitch and that brimstone, that kind of ties to that idea of the Sodom and Gomorrah, because that's what falls from the sky is that burning pitch. So it's that type of destruction, of utter destruction. And then the idea that it's not quenched night or day has to do with the worms we talked about earlier in this chapter. So we don't have to read through all these, but they're just there.
Awesome.
Okay, you guys want to add anything else to that? No, I think we kind of hit it.
Yeah, no, that was great. So those two verses were, and this is the last one for Babylon, the Babylon section. So Yahweh of hosts has sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so it shall be, and as I have purpose, it shall stand. And this verse, before moving to the next one, there is the idea of the creed that the Lord is doing during these chapters 13, 14, Revelation 17, I think Daniel chapter 11, that the Lord is doing this. He has a purpose for what is going to happen. And it's going to be strange for most people. That's what it's called also strange act. It's at 28, DNC 99, 98. Then it's going to be very hard to grasp why the Lord will allow this, unleash these entities, these things as judgment. But it does make sense because we have those who counsel in darkness in Isaiah, who they counsel with the arm of flesh. They don't counsel with the Lord. They don't receive revelation for themselves. They trust other people to receive revelation for them. But then we read in Isaiah 9, those who lead you cast you to err. My people will go captive because they have no knowledge. And versus those who counsel with the Lord. Those who counsel with the Lord is one Isaiah, which is a type of and that end time figure that comes to warn about this judgment, but those who also then ask probably in revelation about it rather than just I don't know, don't consider what people are saying because of whatever bias they have in their thinking, right? We're so preconditioned to think in a specific way. And now we're going to see the Lord as his counsel, his purpose, that he has a plan. And we can get access to that. One, through Isaiah, through reading the scriptures. And two, to usually practice that constantly, going to the Lord for knowledge, for information. Anyway, so this is the next block. I'll read it and then you guys can comment. So, to break Assyria my land and upon my mountains to trample him. And his yoke shall depart from upon them, and his burden from upon his shoulder shall depart. This is the counsel that is counsel upon all the earth, and this is the hand that is stretched upon all the nations. For Yahweh of hosts has purposed, who shall annul it, and his hand is the one stretched out, who shall turn it back. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry, hold on, I'm just looking at me.
So the oracle chief to Assyria.
Yeah, it's funny that we go from Babylon to Assyria now.
Yeah, proximity is coming closer eventually. But then also what we are seeing here is, the historical fulfillment is on Isaiah 37. That's when the decision, there is a siege around Jerusalem, and then the angel of the Lord, the angel of Yahweh, goes out and destroys the 185,000 Assyrian army. So, although the king of Assyria historically dies in Nineveh, and then his own sons kill him, the Lord is saying, I will break Assyria, right? The idea of Assyria is destroyed upon Mount Zion.
That's what his land is, right? That's what he means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which tells you that he's not trying to go to that place. So he's not trying to reach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Yeah. So the idea of maybe, I like the idea of the watchers that they breach their boundary, or the fallen angel. They breach what their boundary that they've been given, right? Like their course or their wherever they're supposed to go as a type of their starry alignment, and they breach that and they go beyond it. So then that would kind of represent this type of king of Assyria going into the land, but the land is the Lord's mountain, which would be like the holy place going into the temple, correct?
Yes. Yep. because that's it's at the end, right? Woe to Assyria, wrote of my anger, and the staff in their hands is my indignation. So he sent him to against a godless nation. I will send him against the people of my wrath. But although he has this commission, but he does not.
There's the mud in the trampling of the mud in the streets. There's my mud again.
Yeah. So and we talked about back then that most of these kings, right, the Lord empower them to do something, and then they exalt themselves, and then they go beyond their commission. So but he does not think. So he doesn't want to just do that. He wants to do more. He wants to go after eventually the holy people, which is now the Lord is going to. This is some type of spectacle for the people to finally trust the Lord, because Assyria here is the biggest threat. And again, this is going to be the Assyrian being destroyed in his own land is going to be the hand that's stretched upon all nations. So this is a Exodus motif. The Lord is taking Israel out of Egypt with a strong hand. And the strong hand was back then everything he did to take them out of Egypt. And that's the arm of the Lord. So it's this miracle to show Pharaoh, who said, who is the Lord? Now Pharaoh learned who the Lord was by everything that happened in Exodus. And that's also for the people to know, right? To know the Lord, who he is. So this is going to be the stretched hand eventually, when they're going to be at the edge of fear and the Assyrians are here at the border. The Lord is going to show by a miracle similar to happens in Isaiah 37 that he is going to destroy the Assyrian in his own land, and then finally becomes recognized among the nations. His people trust him. They know who Yahweh is, and so forth. So, and all of that, all of his purpose, right, is leading to that event. Cameron, you're a little quiet. What do you think?
No, just thinking about a few things. I don't know, lots of half-baked thoughts. As we're talking about the, this idea of the angel of the Lord, or the hand of the Lord, returning basically to save Israel from a foreign invasion at its gates. The imagery that comes to mind is Christ returning and setting his foot down on the Mount of Olives and it splitting in twain, and him destroying the armies that are marching on Jerusalem. So anyway, that's just what I'm kind of thinking on and meditating on as you guys are describing this here.
Awesome.
I just thought this was fun in the idea of the Lord stretching out his hand here. I like this in D&C, where it says, how long can rolling waters remain impure? What power shall stay the heavens? As well might man stretch forth his puny arm to stop the Missouri River in its decreed course, or to turn it upstream as to hinder the Almighty from pouring down knowledge from heaven. So again, that same idea with the knowledge and the counsel being a theme. I kept finding that everywhere. But I like the idea of this, man and his puny arm, stretching it forth to change something that the Lord has decreed that, it's not possible. Kind of goes along with
the puny arm. We're gonna see eventually that even when the Assyrians are coming, they're gonna go to Egypt, which is south, right? Or they're gonna with the Moabites go to Egypt, go south. But Egypt is the arm of flesh. It's exactly trusting in the arm of flesh instead of trusting the stretched arm of the Lord.
Yeah.
But the Lord will have to show them, convince them, physically see it, and to finally get that lesson. That's when Nephi said, right, curse is men who put their trust in
Yeah.
men who make their flesh their arm.
Well, and it's funny too, because chapter 2, we have like an invitation to go up to Zion, but then they go down to Egypt and trust down into Egypt. Like it even shows like an aspect of it being a descent, going to, they're trusting in something lower as opposed to accepting an invitation to go higher.
Yeah, and fun enough that like chapter 2, you have you mentioned chapter 2, the nations flow to Zion, right? It's like I guess
stream,
nature, right? You can now
flows up. Yeah, it's
the
like
river goes down from a mountain. Now the river's going up the mountain. So he's turning the stream. He's doing that, but in these chapters first, there's going to be a time where actually there is this repulsion energy, right? The nations, like I show here there's going to be a time where everybody who is not coming to Zion first, before the Lord established his righteousness, during that division phase, they're going to be repelled from Zion. But eventually when the Lord then, at the very end, right, then the invitation is to flow to Zion and find refuge there. So that's a good verse. You want to read that, Rachel?
I want Cameron to read it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm happy to read it. I've been quiet for a little bit. So
you read and I want to alternate.
Okay. In the year of the death of King Ahaz came this burden. Do not rejoice, Philistia, all of you, that the rod of your striker is broken. For from the root of a serpent shall come forth a viper, and its fruit a flying fiery serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall graze, and the needy shall lie down in safety. But I will kill your root with famine, and your remnant he shall slay. Wail, gate, cry out, city. Melt away, Philistia, all of you. For from the north smoke comes, and there is no straggler in his ranks. And what shall one answer the messengers of a nation? That Yahweh has founded Zion, and in her the afflicted of his people shall take refuge.
Yeah, so now the prophecy comes time present back then. So we have Babylon, Assyria, and now present time, in the year that this prophecy was given is when King Ahaz died. And this is probably the biggest verse that always is a puzzle, right? Verse 29. What in the world this means? That from the root of a serpent shall come a viper, and from its fruit a flying fiery serpent.
Yeah, this was a doozy for me this time. So in times past, I've looked at this as a positive thing, but the idea of the flying fiery serpent as a positive thing being like a type of a serpent or something. But I really wanted to look at it differently this time, because I kept feeling like everything was pointing to it differently and
pointing down, right?
Yes.
All of that, like it's getting worse and worse and worse, right? The condition is worse.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was a positive aspect where that's how I've seen the interpretation before. This time I was like, okay, I'm looking at this differently. I'm not feeling that at all this time. I'm feeling a different vibe. And so, yeah.
Well,
it seems like this is like posterity type language. Is that?
Yeah, like a lineage. Yeah, so I started to look at it like I went back to the idea, and maybe I'd have it in the next slide, in Genesis 3, where we have like the two seeds of the serpent and the seed of the woman. And I kind of was just kind of going back to that idea of these two ideas, because then in verse 30 there we have like the firstborn of the poor shall graze and the needy shall lie down in safety, but then the idea of killing this root with famine and this remnant being slayed. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe there's this contrasting, good seed, bad seed, or two different seeds. And basically I thought 29 is really more talking about, so my idea earlier talking about the dust and the desert, going to this place of possession and getting really bad, I feel like links to this idea of 29, where the people are rejoicing, thinking that their oppressor, right? The rod of their strikers broken. Their oppressor's broken, this king of Assyria type, and so they think there's, room to rejoice and be excited. But then from that root of that serpent comes this viper, and from the viper, then this fiery flying serpent, which could represent someone who had knowledge and power and light, but they choose to, descend and fall from there. And that's like the person who goes into the pit. So I was seeing it as like, oh, something was good. Like you clean your house, you sweep it clean, you think everything's good, you've been saved, whatever. But then, it ends up being worse than your initial phase, but you weren't expecting it. So that's, I don't know, that's where I was.
Where is that verse in the Book of Mormon? I think maybe worth to.
Yeah.
There are two of them.
Makes sense.
One is, I believe, is Alma is 26 or not. Or it's 24. I always get confused. No, this is Ammon's praise. So I don't want to do it. This is my dream. I always have a dream that I'm looking for a scripture.
I can't find it.
You
mean a nightmare?
Like Sunday school or when I was working at the MTC. Here we go. 24, and I cannot find the verse.
Oh yeah.
I haven't had a dream for a while though, but
that's pretty good then.
And thus we can plainly discern that after a people have been once enlightened by the Spirit of God and have had great knowledge of things pertaining to righteousness, so that's a condition, right? Being enlightened by the Spirit of God, great knowledge, and then have fallen away into sin and transgression, they become more hardened, and thus their state become worse than though they have never known these things. Put a pin on this and look at this verse in 2 Nephi 1, whereas Nephi said that so when the time cometh that they shall dwell in unbelief, he's talking about the Lamanites, after they have received so great blessings from the hand of the Lord, having knowledge again of the creation of the earth, and all men, and knowing the great marvelous works of the Lord from the creation of the world, having power given to them to do all things, blah blah blah. Where I said, behold, said the Lord, they shall come that they will reject the Holy One of Israel, the true Messiah, the Redeemer, their God. Behold, the judgment of him that is just shall rest upon them. Yes, I will bring other nations unto them, and he will give them power, and he will take away from them the lands of their possessions. It will cause them to be scattered and smitten. So wait.
So the land of their possessions. So Ahaz, at the beginning of this verse 28, it's the year of the death of King Ahaz. His name can also mean possessor, right? Holding a possession, and we've talked about land here.
Yeah.
Too, right? So
somebody who grasp. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what King Ahaz. Well, we'll talk about him in a second, but so you see the parallel here that the having great knowledge, then the condition becomes worse, and then because they come lower spiritually, then they're exposed to the nations. Always are the enemy dwells outside the region of Israel. That's the type, and as long as they keep the law, the Torah, they're protected. They don't, then they come similar with the Nephites and the Lamanites, and so forth. But the cool thing here is that the idea of great knowledge. And here, the Lehi said this, great knowledge. And then Nephi uses similar language in 2 Nephi 27 to 29. One, there is a record that has revealed all things from the creation of the world. And the Lord's going to bring that with power. The power of the Lord is going to bring that record. It's going to show this great knowledge of the great marvelous work, so forth. So I believe that eventually when that comes, the record comes, which to them, these were the brass plates. That in 1 Nephi chapter 5, that's when they read that, from all the book of Moses, and probably it's not what we have today in the Bible necessary. So eventually in 2 Nephi 27, that record is going to have from the foundation, what is it? Because they reveal all things from the foundation of the world. And it's not be read from the housetops by the power of Christ. All things shall be revealed unto the children of men. Similar language here. So then when that is rejected, that is probably what we're seeing, that now the Lord will, their condition become worse than the first. Because until that point, probably they receive some portion of the Spirit. Now they're going to become, they're hardening their hearts. And then it's going to be a whole descent of this axis here that you're seeing here. People are going to go down, start going down that spiritual axis. And then it's where you are exposed to a greater judgment. In this case, nations. And maybe that's what we're reading here, that it becomes worse.
Yeah, I could see that. I like that.
Yeah, I always wondered, why is it that sons of perdition type language gets applied to the king of Babylon and to these end times armies? And it's exactly your point. In order for things to get as bad as they can possibly get, so that the Lord's people can be purified to the utmost degree and can overcome the world, they have to be exposed to greater darkness. So in order to get the greatest good, you have to be exposed to the greatest darkness, right? It's opposition in all things is the pattern and the principle. And the only way that you can get that is through those that have received and rejected greater revelation.
Exactly.
And so that becomes the condition of the whole world. You know what is coming to mind here? I've been thinking about this. I thought maybe we were talking about it, but then I couldn't tell. And then I ended up thinking about it more. And I feel like I should just mention it. So Rachel, you mentioned Matthew 12 earlier with the verse about the parable, right, of the sweeping of the house and the 7 men and the demons. And the Joseph Smith translation explicitly connects that to the sin against the Holy Ghost.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that.
Okay, so I assumed that maybe that you included that because you did know that, because it just fit in with everything else super well. Rodolfo, maybe let's click over to that real fast. It's JST Matthew 12.
That's what we just read, or
no, it's not in the slide. We read the KJV.
Okay.
That's funny though. I did come across the pouring out of the Spirit quite a few times. So now that you say that, it's like, oh, that makes sense. The idea of sinning against the Holy Ghost when the idea is,
and sorry, Rodolfo, it's the JST.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, although I'll be honest with you guys, I've read this a million times and I cannot quite wrap my head around it. We're looking at verse 38, I think. 38 and 39, I think. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll start one verse up in 37. If you'd scroll up just to
37, sorry, yep.
Yeah. Then came some of the scribes and said unto him, Master, it is written that every sin shall be forgiven, but ye say, whoever speaketh against the Holy Ghost shall not be forgiven. And they asked him, saying, how can these things be? And he said unto them, when the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest and finding none. But when a man speaketh against the Holy Ghost, then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth him empty, swept, and garnished. For the good spirit leaveth him unto himself. Then goeth the evil spirit, and taketh with him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself. And they enter in and dwell there. And the last end of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation.
That's awesome. Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
So anyway, a lot to unpack there. I was sitting there trying to like unpack it all as we were talking, and
Interesting.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
What have you mentioned and search? I'm not a browser, so I can just go directly from the
I
browser.
know. I open up so many of them.
10 if well, there's a couple of here on 16.
Yeah, I want to see where you're going with it because I have an idea too. I'm not.
So 10, right? That I should say unto you that at that day, that's the day, is not before, it's same day I said speaking, the day of the Lord, when the Gentiles shall sin against my gospel, and then shall reject. So that's rejecting more, right? Those who say I will give unto children line upon line. That's 2 Nephi 28, 30, precept upon precept. But those who will say we have
enough, right?
enough shall be taken from them, even that they received. So there is this emptiness because it's been taken from them. So when you reject, when the Lord is trying to give you more, then you open that room.
Yeah, for them to enter, right? Yeah.
The dry places. That's why you become dry, and it becomes but then somehow I think Jordan Peterson mentioned some of this idea of expanding your capacity to go up or down because you went higher, and maybe that's why this song is trying to tell us in Isaiah 14, those who try to go super high, right? You open the other side to go very lower. So and then I think what is 2 Nephi 29, 3 Nephi 29, sorry. Here's where we read those who becomes
right.
So woe unto him that shall say at that day, same day, to get gain, that they shall know miracle brought by Jesus Christ. And this is, if you start compounding all of this is Nephi and 2 Nephi 27, 29, saying that the Lord's now bring more records. People are going to deny that. They're going to say, no, that they need to come only through one channel, and whatever comes outside of that, there is no miracle done. And this is the warning that's been given. For he that this shall become like unto the son of perdition, for whom there is no mercy according to the words of Christ. So, take that.
Well, and that chapter 20, excuse me, 29 connects to the work of translated beings as well. And
exactly. Yeah.
There's something about their revelation, and it says those that reject them reject Christ himself, right? And it would be better for them if they'd never been born, which is son of perdition type language.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, I want to dive into that verse historically and then make sense, but there's some comments. I think we should read some comments. And it's been a while. So let's see.
You guys keep going. I just have to check on one of my kids real quick, okay?
Go, yeah, don't worry. So, yeah, I saw the honor in Hebrew Kabbalah. It means it's word for glory, yes. As in doing things for the glory of God. I think that's correct. Yeah. And you make some comments too? You want to answer?
Yeah, I was just responding to a comment about glory and honor.
Got it.
Yeah, there's just a DNC 29 the Lord equates his honor with his power.
Yes.
It goes right back to this, depiction of Satan saying, "Give me thine honor."
Yeah, and what is in Isaiah 48? The Lord said, "My honor I shall not give to no one," something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Had lots of hedgehogs visiting our backyard here. So, Serpent. So, where are you located? My kids will love that. I'm not a big pet guy. My kids are. Yeah, they're nocturnal animals too. Yeah, that's true. And similar to the imagery in Isaiah chapter 2, right? The underworld animals are there mentioned too. So it's similar. I think that's a good connection. Yeah, I wish we had hedgehogs. Just get the straves and armadillos and um, sorry, this one here first. So maybe the point of the animals in Isaiah 14 is the fact that the city will become desolate, that only animals will live there. That's the image I will get in this. Yes. Well, on one, geographically, yes, right? That's you have another place, you have cattle and pasture and milk and honey flowing, which the first reference to that is in Exodus chapter 3, when the Lord told Moses that he will take Israel to a land of milk and honey. And that was the opposite of Egypt, because even you needed to work hard to get what you want. It's all about working, no rest. But in Zion, things flow. It's a land of abundance. Things flow naturally. The land is rest, and the cattle, everything is flow naturally. But then here you see the imagery of emptiness, right? As we just read in Matthew 12, can represents actually, other spirits coming to possess those places. Amy, hey Amy, good to hear from you. You wanna read that one, Cameron?
Yeah. Do you think possession of the unclean bird or unclean spirit is showing the opposite state of having the Holy Ghost abiding in us, as the symbol of the Holy Ghost is a dove?
Likes that.
Yeah, birds get equated with angels, right, and spirits and things of the heavenly realm. So I certainly think that there's an intentional parallel there. Verse 24 sounds like the start of an ancient oath. The Hebrew word of remembering means active intervention. So it sounds like God is remembering his people, or an oath, or he's hearing their prayers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the it's covenant language is the decree, oath, something the Lord swore, and that should give us confidence that the Lord actually make this oath from the beginning, and He will honor it. So, sworn.
Will the New Jerusalem be surrounded by mountains?
That's a common question.
Yes. Well, I mean, there are a few different ways that you could answer this question, but some supporting evidence, if you just want to stick to the scriptures, every high place will be made low and every low place will be exalted. And what do we read in Isaiah 2? That in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be established in the top of the mountains. And the way that all of the imagery of the symbolism, I was trying to mix two words together there. The symmetry, the way it all, of course, plays together, it's testifying of divine spiritual realities. So, yeah.
So Suspend also has one about the continuation, verse 27. Who shall annul it? God's word always lives and returns to him fruitful. Yeah, that's Isaiah 50, somewhere there, 59, I believe, that my word shall not come empty, meaning it will be as fulfilled as he declares it. Maybe 57. Yeah.
It's the mountains in Utah.
I was in Utah, came back yesterday.
Yeah,
Wow.
I will say the everlasting hills that are mentioned in DNC 133 are not the Rocky Mountains.
They're not.
It's bad.
That's the feeling during the Olympics.
Did you see this one from Jessica? She said, today I learned in linguistics class about Genesis 3:1, the serpent originates in the maternal deep as a force of chaos and vitality. Later reframed but not erased within Israel's scriptures. They tracked this from the most ancient texts and saw the change in Enuma Elish. And we have that in like a lot of mythologies, like the serpent imagery comes out of the deep, out of the waters. And I read a text really cool about the priest wearing like a sash that looks like a snake or serpent skin,
like the Ouroboros.
Yeah, and yeah, like if he wore blue on his robe, and then it was like waters or sky, and then the sash was like the snake skin. There's a lot of cool stuff with that.
Yeah, well, that's so cool. So serpent, maternal deep as a force of chaos and vitality. Yeah, so the serpent is has a dual symbolism. I have a book in Hebrew that's called it's the mystery of the serpent, but it's very Kabbalistic. I haven't dived into it. I cannot read it, to be honest. I'm trying to probably run it through some type of AI so I can, because it's very the language
is that the really thin one? Is that a thin
No, it's a short one.
It was called The Secret of the Serpent. I think I have
my bathroom. Maybe now I look at it and
okay. I have more to share on that one, I think, with you. Actually, I found some funny stuff.
That's a good one, and it mentioned that dual idea of the serpent, right?
Yeah.
Similar in Gematria, which is when in Judaism when they assign letters to numbers. So it's the same. It's almost the same word for Messiah, Messiah, and it's the same equivalent number in Gematria. So you have that dual idea of the serpent. And that's the so Nephi. So Jacob says in 2 Nephi 9 that Lucifer came as an angel of light to Adam and Eve. So then we can say came as a serpent. Serpent can be it's a type of angelic beings, and yeah.
Well, one year my son, when he was really little, we were talking about this, and he's like, well, if he was super into seraphs or seraphim, and we were talking about the snake going on its belly, and he's like, well, is that because it was a flying fiery serpent before, and then he has to be, then he's stuck on his belly? And I was like, I hadn't thought of that, so just the idea of like having been a seraph that, is empowered and has wings and flies, and then the curse, idea of being, cast with no legs onto your belly and eating the dust like that. Those are like definitely two polarized ideas of the serpent.
Yep.
What is the name of that serpent that goes in the temple up and down during the equinox? I always have this name in my head and then forget. So
what's it from?
I think it's the Maya. That's the serpent during the equinox. You see the shape of a serpent going up the temple.
Not Quetzalcoatl.
I think that one. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the winged serpent.
The winged serpent. Yeah.
The Mayan one.
Yeah, interesting. They preserve the seraphic symbol.
I know, it's interesting. And the feathers, like a snake with feathers too. It's just like, oh.
In the last one, verse 28, the possessor died, but verse 29, do not rejoice, because the rod snake is replaced by a viper. There is flying serpent, like the king of the Lamanites, replaced by Amalekah. Wow, that's because we have talked about it before, right? That Amalekah he's a dissenter, and he was way worse than the Lamanites as far as an enemy to the Nephites.
Yeah, I don't. This idea of the going bad to worse just seems.
He made the what is the guy descend from the when he's in the hill, and he told him to come down, and he said no, and then he met him in the middle, and then he deceived him.
Yeah,
Lahontai, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good type actually of in the context of this. Which so historically, King Ahaz. Let's see. So King Ahaz. He he became a vassal. He made Judah a vassal of Assyria under King Sargon III. That was king of Assyria back then, and so then became a vassal state, and they rejected the Ephraim-Syria coalition against Assyria because Assyria was just taking over everywhere. So they want all of these little nations around Judah want to have a coalition against Assyria, but King Ahaz is the one who doesn't join them because they were hostile to them, and they thought this is our chance to get protection from somebody more powerful, finally be left alone, or because they were always a threat to them. So when King Ahaz died, then here in this case Philistia, representing the coalition, they thought, oh, finally now we have somebody who was a vassal state of Assyria who can now maybe we can absorb or be removed. So contextually, that what it's saying here is that whatever is happening, and King Ahaz can be that serpent. There are people who said also is king. This refers to the king of Assyria, because the one who comes after Sargon is Sennacherib, and Sennacherib is the bad guy. He's the one who is. He is the one who actually wants siege Jerusalem. He lived himself as God in Isaiah 36 and 37. So he's the type. So he technically, we can make the case as the flying fiery serpent who comes worst than whatever King Ahaz had with King Sargon. So that's one way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
There are more things for sure. Like Rashi thought this was Hezekiah because of the messianic idea of a serpent in Judaism, but definitely the trend here is to be worse and worse and worse. So you have, for example, Pharaoh being a serpent, and during we see in Exodus 7, right, the magicians of Pharaoh, the counterfeit Moses serpent. But then in Ezekiel 29, Pharaoh is literally that serpent in the midst of the waters. And then in Numbers 21, the people, again, they receive now the flying serpents that come with poison who hurt them. So you see maybe also during Moses' time some type of parallelism here between the serpent that they had with the worst serpent who actually hurt the people. Pharaoh was hitting them physically with labor, but then they got like poison and they were about to die unless they look at the seraph. And actually the word also is seraph for flying fiery serpent. What is the word in Hebrew? What do you have? You have more on this, Rachel, right?
Well, I don't think I made any slides because I ran out of steam, but I did just want to talk about the two places where we have the viper in Isaiah.
Okay.
When you were done here.
Yeah. So it's a burning one. That's a Hebrew, and so So if you go to search diligently the net and look for the word, so the that's seraph, same word for burning one, also can be poison one. And it's funny because in Isaiah, what is it, 59, you have the healing of his wings.
Mm.
So there is also the idea of a flying entity who has healing, and that is the type of the serpent, of the servant, in the positive way, which here we see the other ones who are poison in nature and can cause damage. And the word for fruit here is egg in Hebrew, so that's worth to point that out.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it connected to 59.5.
59,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm wondering.
I mentioned some about, here's a slide about the history you can pass and read on Philistia. And you want to talk about this?
This is just what I kind of mentioned before, just earlier,
Okay.
just about the idea of these two lineages, two lines of seed. And that maybe we're contrasting some of those here. That's it, really. Oh, I do have this. I forgot. Well, do we want to move on to this a little bit, or do you guys? We can times it 8.
Oh, I thought you had one on the.
I don't have one on I might have thrown it at the end of the stack and decided not to use it. I had a lot of ideas. These ones talk about the poor and the needy, but we could
this is part of.
I mean, it ties in, but I don't know. Wherever you guys want to go.
Well, let's just finish the last few verses and want to go to the last verse. But
okay,
let's cover some of the.
Do you want to go? Do you want me to go through these? Go.
Yeah. Please go.
Back and I'll cruise through real quick. Because let's see. Go back one more slide or maybe 2 more slides. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, this works. Okay, so the next verse is here in 30. We talk about the firstborn of the poor shall graze, and the needy shall lie down in safety. So I was thinking about contrasting that with then this group that is killed, because talking about this is the idea of having the grazing and the lying down, in pasture safely. Probably, that gives us a lot the shepherd imagery of the Lord, maybe like Psalm 23 and some other places. So I thought just kind of defining these 2 words, poor and needy, because they definitely represent a type of person and kind of reveals who it is that is grazing and lays down safely or in safety. So poor, real quick, there's 2 words that make a poor. It has to do with being weak and thin, needy, poor, when it was low. And then the root for that is to slacken or hang down, be feeble, be oppressed, bring low, dry up, be emptied. And so this word be emptied immediately made me think of Isaiah 53, because the idea of being brought low or being made to empty kind of ties with that idea of pouring out your soul into death or making your soul an offering for sin. Because in this verse, this person sees the travail of their soul. They have this idea, it says, by their knowledge, they justify many. And the idea of travailing in the soul and pouring out the soul, then they're satisfied, right? So it's funny, these 2 ideas of being empty, made empty, then fills you and makes you satisfied because you're fulfilling, something that, tied to a role or a bigger pattern or type of principle, kind of maybe like the savior there, obviously, because this person makes, an intercession for those who have transgressed. And so I thought that was a cool idea of showing what it means to be poor.
Well, the Lord in Exodus 17, when he took it's been 30 days since they left Egypt exactly, which is the lunar cycle, is when the Lord gave them manna. So the tradition was that most of their provisions from Egypt, they were empty. So that's when they become hunger. That's when the Lord gave them manna in Exodus. So there was a time of emptiness to learn what manna actually means. I did a post on our group about that, but
okay, I gotta read that. I didn't know. So also with the idea of when there we have like as a type of that for some, intercessing for someone on behalf of them. Psalm 49 had a lot of great parallels with this chapter too, and the same idea of where you talked about the sons being destroyed and the fathers earlier, like that tied into the idea of the watchers where that Enoch tells them they actually can't intercede for their sons. Like they don't have that ability to intercede on behalf of someone else. And so because you sin so greatly, you lose that ability to act as a intercessor for somebody. And so that's the same idea in Psalm 49. It says, let's see, they that trust in their wealth and boast of themselves and the multitude of the riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. For the redemption of their soul is precious, and it ceaseth forever. So just that idea of a category where you cannot step in to, redeem someone else or stand in their place that's taken from you. I thought that was
okay. So this is cool. So in Genesis 15, the Lord is talking to Abraham, and at the very end, he said that the people is gonna be in a foreign land, and talking about Egypt for 400 years, and then they're gonna live. He said, mentioned with possession, with substance, and the Hebrew is possession. And so then what happened is that the Israelites, right? They plunder Egypt. They get Egypt a lot of the wealth, and they leave Egypt with possession. And we read that in those chapters, Exodus 14. But then that becomes the gold for the tabernacle, and then that becomes also the gold for the golden calf, which is very interesting because you are looking at what possession maybe the Lord is talking to Abraham is that is the internal wealth that you will receive through being redeemed by God, which always there is some type of silver and gold. But to me, this is intelligence. That's the goal internally that happened that we receive when we are bought by Christ. Our inner spirit becomes receive wealth, and that is the tabernacle. That is the temple. It's not the physical gold, which is a type. It's a type of what needs to happen. So when we do that, all of us do that collectively, then that's the wealth, that's the gold that can build the temple. And this is exactly what King Benjamin is saying in Mosiah 3, chapter 3, when he's talking about that. After that, to retain a remission of your sins, now you need to go and feed the poor, the needy, and so forth. Because if you haven't, when you receive a remission of your sins, you have something now to intercede. If you haven't, and we do that, we play the game of charity, right? We think that maybe we haven't experienced this, but we can still give some money to the poor and the needy, and it's better than not doing it. But the scriptures actually are talking about spiritual condition when you have wealth.
Yes, you have enough. Yeah, well, you have enough merit or power to, yeah.
And that is the storehouse of heaven that is mentioned in Joseph Smith translation of Genesis 14, when the Lord's talking about Melchizedek and receive the tithe, and then there is a mention of the wealth, the storehouse of heaven. That's what a bishop should be. And the Lord is asking in section 42, in section 70, I think it's 72, it's asking for the saints to build the storehouse for my people, for the poor of my people. He's not talking about physical thing, although it's part of it. He's talking about the spiritual wealth that we're not gaining so we can help his people with the spiritual nourishment they need, which is Zion. That's what Zion is. That's the abundance of that wealth.
So, okay, that's interesting, because in that same idea, same Psalm 49 that I read where they can't redeem anybody, it's talking about man being an honor but not abiding. And so that honor is that represents the word in Hebrews. I looked it up just now. That's the wealth and the precious things and the value, and that's that same idea. So it says here too that it says that it talks about the idea of being made rich and increase, but when he dies, he shall carry nothing away with him, and his glory, it says, his glory shall not descend after him. So I think it's kind of funny that his glory descends instead of, again, rising up. That's the idea of it, him descending, and you can't take you can't take that wealth with you, and that he won't ever see the light. Okay, so sorry.
And glory, that's what glory of God is intelligence.
Yes.
Light and truth, but
you can take with you. Yeah. Exactly.
It's an internal. And then it's substance, because then
yes,
everything that is light is spirit. And then in section 131 says that there is not such thing as immaterial matter. All spirit is matter, but it's more refined. So you are literally receiving something internally that at the time of the resurrection, it's what vivifies you, and that's the glory you have, and that's the condition we will inherit. But in section 20 and section 93 verse 28 mentioned that we are glorified. So we receive light and truth, but we're glorifying truth. And so that's very interesting why I mentioned that we are glorifying. Yeah. Truth is the glorification, prolification. What is it? Glorification, that's the word. Mm-hmm. Agent. Anyway, that's so cool.
So then, the needy, there's this is the word definition on needy. But we can kind of go past that, really. These are all different aspects of it. So, but basically, what we're kind of going to land on here in the end is the idea of Zion and God himself becoming a place of refuge for the poor and the needy. But also we have in parallel with that is man becoming a place and a refuge for others too. So maybe this ties into like Isaiah 7, is it one where a man keeps alive
one sheep and goat?
Yeah, maybe there's something tying to that where he's the one that nourishes them and keeps them alive. But the same idea of he's like a stronghold or a place of refuge too, like a shepherd, right?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Big connection.
Okay, and then I had to connect this again to that. We talked about the red and the crimson worm earlier, and this just happened to tie in that. I think we talked about this in another chapter way back, but this is the idea of building your house in an unrighteous way, right? And doing it incorrectly. So it's describing this house that's being built, and it's painted with vermilion, and that vermilion represents like that crimson worm again. But he's asking, the Lord's asking this, I don't know who this is here, I can't remember, it's in Jeremiah 22, but it says, will you reign because you closed yourself in cedar, you built your castle and your palace is cedar, what, you're gonna reign? And he's like, actually no, your father, he judged the cause of the poor and the needy, and it was well with him, and that's really what allows him to be righteous and good, is coming back to that idea of the cause of Zion or the cause of the poor, the needy. We talked about the widow and the fatherless back in Isaiah 10, I think. And so just that same idea where we talked about, man trying to cover their own sins, and that it's not possible, but it's the crimson word, it's Christ, that type and representation of the red covering. I think I have one more verse maybe on covering there.
And then for one hand will be is a symbol of covering, right?
Mhm.
And on the other one is judgment to those who shed blood, like Edom. Edom means
Oh yeah, red.
red blood,
Yeah.
and then judgment for them.
Yeah. So I just thought it was funny that they paint that red. You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
very symbolic. Then yeah, this goes into that last verse where it talked about that they want to break their ranks. What is the verse? Sorry, I should probably.
So what verse?
We're in the end of, let's see. End of it was let's see. Okay, so whale gate, cry out city, melt away Philistia, all of you. From the north smoke comes, and there's no straggler in his ranks. And what shall one answer the messengers of a nation? That Yahweh has founded Zion, and in her the afflicted of his people should take refuge. So the idea that the smoke coming from the north and the no straggler breaks his ranks. I liked this because it tied back to this idea. I remember I talked about the climbing up and trying to ascend by way of climbing. And they climb, this army talks about like climbing in the houses and through the windows like a thief. But the idea that they don't break their ranks, I thought, this ties into the idea that, one is gone, but another's coming. They don't break rank, like the same idea of it was bad and it's going to get worse because there's no breaking of that rank of the seed of the serpent and eventually the fiery flying serpent. I think that was it.
That's a cool image. Just terrifying if you're in the building.
It's not good.
What else is let's see. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2, and I think it's verse 14. So no, let's see. So you have the definition here of the man of sin, which in the Greek is man of lawlessness, and that's linked to Beliar, I believe. That anyway. So, and then let's see, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Potentially, that's why we're reading the Assyrian shall be destroyed in my own land, and so forth. Even him whose coming is after the workings of Satan. So you see here, one is that has Satan, and then whose coming is after after whatever Satan is gonna try to do, is gonna pick his work. Then after that is when the other guy is coming with all power, signs and lying wonders, and with all the deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the law of the truth, that they might be saved. So you see, they reject that, similar what Cameron mentioned, that they reject something, and now whatever is coming is worst.
Okay, you mentioned Edom and red, and for some reason a connection went off that I'd never thought about before. This is slightly tangential and slightly related to something we've talked about in past weeks, but I wanted to throw it out real quick. So tell me what you guys think of this. Isaiah 63 verses 1 and 2, or really just 1 is fine.
Well, you want me to read the KJV?
Yeah, let's do the KJV just for consistency.
Yeah.
Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Okay, so he's coming from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah. If we go to DNC 133, I thought about this before, but I never thought about this. DNC 133 verse 46. And this is like a reinterpretation or an application, right, of this verse. It shall be said, Who is this that cometh down from God in heaven with dyed garments? Yea, from the regions which are not known, clothed in his glorious apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. And he shall say, I am he who spake in righteousness, mighty to save. There's a parallel being drawn between Edom and heaven in a way that feels like it maps onto this whole conversation we're having about how sometimes north is north and sometimes north is heaven. Sometimes north is like the land of your Gentile invaders, and sometimes it's the place where the gods congregate.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it feels like that connection fits in the midst of
Totally. Yeah, because north is up. Technically, if you're in a 2D, always is up, and that's Safon north. But then north here that's the only place that you can enter into Jerusalem. And both Jerusalem received judgment from the north, from Assyria, but then Babylon, King Cyrus, he attacked them from the north too. So the north becomes an unknown region, boundary of that. I think that is for sure.
It's what's interesting. So the connection that comes to mind from past weeks is when we talk about is it the Persians, or the army that's coming to destroy the wicked?
The
Medes. It's like what exactly is the nature of this army from the north? And perhaps maybe there's a case to be made that, I don't know, the relationship between what sometimes appear to be Israel's neighbors or Gentile nations can have more divine allusions. Anyway, all these types get applied. They cross dimensions.
Like the North Star in the air constellation represents a place, or a spiritual place and a physical place for someone to come from.
And so verse 31, well, gate, cry out city. If you look at Philistia, Philistines, right? They are very close proximity. Moab and Philistia, like coordinates wise, are very close to Jerusalem. But now we see the idea of the gate, right? It's the what do you make of that, Rachel? That's the gate.
Well, when I was talking about Mount Hermon earlier, like the top of Mount Hermon is where they come and make the oath. But then below that, in real life, we talked about, Cameron, how there's the cave, and it's like, the gate of Hades or whatever is down below there, and that's what they think is like the gateway into the underworld. And so I thought, oh, that's weird. Like maybe there's reference to that because they're talking about the north and the smoke, you know what I mean? So maybe there's like the idea of north being the mountain, that place, but then below in the gate where the smoke comes out, the pit. That's one idea.
Zion has gates, and enter into the gate to the city in Revelation 21.
Like every city, right, has their gate.
And Isaiah mentioned her gates, and the woman in Proverbs 31, right? What is her name? The virtuous woman in 31. She sits at the gates with the elders, and so the gate, right? You enter into the gate, straight narrow path. So for the gate becomes the boundary between runs.
Either
between worlds.
Good or bad, right? Like a gate to heaven and a gate to hell, or a gate to a temple, a gate to.
So here it seems like this casts that division, and Nephi says, right, it's going to be a great division among the people, where ones are going to enter. Christ does close the door, right, to the 5 virgins.
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah, so you have the bridegroom.
He's the one at the gate when we talked about climbing up, right? Like there's no other way to climb up except through Christ, who's at the gate. He's the what is it? The porter.
Yeah.
At the gate. Isn't it he who sits at the gate? It's Christ.
759.
Yeah, I think so. Just
Yeah,
as
like he doesn't use a servant there, I believe.
Verse 41. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Verse 41. He's
Yeah.
the keeper of the gate. He employs no servant there. He is none other way to say by the gate. He cannot receive, for he cannot receive, for the Lord is his name. He cannot be deceived. And but eventually, yeah, the idea of a gate, people that the gate is the one that is suffering. It can be those who don't enter. In the end time, you have a chance enter into thy places, right? In Isaiah 26, that is those places of refuge. And now we have people who are left outside the gate, and then they are going to spiritual condition, right? We have to enter before that happens. That will be too late. Those who are trying to give birth, right, during the tribulation, but they have no strength, or they die because of the pain, or they bring forth like when nothing else. And then you mentioned the north, and then this is probably the last thing we can.
This bothered me too. I looked at 1,000 different ideas for the messenger.
So what do you have? That's the same word, Malachi.
Malachi
right?
one, yes, and then I just hold on. Gosh, if I could find,
Yeah,
I just found
Malachi
another.
is the word for a messenger, an angel, Malak.
Angel. Yeah, right.
And Malak, angel, Malachi.
The messenger comes to the temple, right? So if we're talking temple imagery here too, it's like, well, that's plausible. What else did I can't remember what else I told you about that. I just found another one.
We got an email about, I think, Malachi from 35, what the Lord does with 35. I think it's 24. And I've been traveling. I want to reply. So if you are listening, that was a very awesome email. We will reply. We allow permission for next time to share some of those insights.
Let's see.
Because now it becomes a nation singular. And so what shall one answer to them? These are the envoys. So these are the people coming from, and the Hebrew here is goim and goy, which is plural, like Gentile nation. And who is this nation? Is Philistia, or is the collective outside of Zion? Because now we see Zion against everybody else. So this can represent Gentiles as a whole. So one nation who are coming, the envoys are coming, and technically they were coming to us for, okay, Ahaz died, now let's make an alliance with us so we can protect. But the answer the Lord is telling them is no more alliances. We're done with that. We're done with making alliances. So the Lord is saying, the Lord himself, he is the suzerain of Zion. The people, there is no other Lord, there is no other alliance, there is no other. And he's telling, by the same token, he's telling them that if they are not coming to Zion, Yahweh is only here in Zion. If you're not coming here for refuge, then you're going to be destroyed, which is what happens now in all of the oracles. The Moabites are instructed to go to Zion. Ephraim and Damascus, don't go against Egypt. So the envoys are trying to make these alliances, and the Lord is saying, I founded Zion. This is going to be the center place, the only place for refuge. Leave it or take it. So that's the literal gathering.
It always comes back to that, doesn't it?
It all comes back to that.
It's where everything comes together, literally.
I wanted to say literally, like literally. I have teenage daughters, and literally happens a lot in our house, and it sounds very Valley Girl, but I had to laugh. I like the literal gathering.
Okay, there's a few more comments and we can call it a.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, read that. Who can read that? My eyes are failing right now.
Isaiah 14:29 or 14:29 to 32. Transformation pattern: serpent, viper, fiery flying serpent equals escalation into a higher seraphic role, judgment on Philistia, protection of the poor, refuge.
And I think Jessica has a second.
Dual pattern: serpent equals death / judgment. Serpent equals healing / deliverance. Numbers 21. Book of Mormon parallels like 1 Nephi 17:41, John 3:14 to 15. Yeah, it's a symbol that gets used both ways, right? It's similar to the way that lots of the right hand and the left hand imagery gets used in the
So
book of
water destruction, water salvation.
Right.
And Jessica has a great channel too. I don't out of my head remember it, but I know she goes into a lot of Hebrew roots and details to make sense of a lot of good things. So
drop it in the chat, Jessica.
Yeah.
I haven't never seen it. I'd love to.
Davidic line, Ehaz to Hezekiah, culminating in fiery flying serpent, set up like judgment deliverer. Yeah, dualism, everything serpent. Yeah, Hezekiah comes after. Hezekiah is the type of the Messiah. Gate also represent pass through from order to chaos, from chaos to order. Yeah, yes. Birth canal.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Christ pearls. That's her channel. Christ pearls. And okay. Also, I know we're gonna have a break for a few weeks. We have a lot of things we want to put together. Cameron will be growing his family in the next few. And
Yeah, we've got a baby due. The mayor.
anytime now, right? Anytime.
Yeah, she's technically due today, but we're thinking we'll probably go to this weekend. So
That's exciting. And yeah, so we will have a break for a few weeks, but we will have a couple of updates coming in soon, and then a lot of fun things. So well, take care of yourself if you are somebody who is a scientist researching UFO stuff.
Seriously.
Careful with that. And that's something coming that's gonna worry about it. But all well.
Something from the heavens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something from Edom. Wink, wink.
From Edom. Yes.
If
But
that's
if we
your real
enter
name.
into the gate, if we enter into the gate, then it's all well.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was wonderful. Thank you, guys.
I will see
We'll
next
give you an
time.
update when we're back in a few weeks. Thank you.